Hey everyone, Fresh here. Today I wanted to go ahead and just break down the vault picks that I made today. We're going to go ahead and take a look at each of my tanks and see what they got in their different vaults. So the first tank we're going to take a look at is my Blood Death Knight. This character actually hit level 80 over the weekend, so I did 4 delves on him at 540 item level and got a nice little upgrade here in a two-handed weapon. The neck's not bad. It doesn't have haste on it, which right now Blood doesn't want to have any haste, but I went ahead and just took the two-handed weapon. It's kind of nice because it will save me a lot of gold because I don't have to try to craft like a 619 weapon later on. So that will jump up this character's item level 10 item levels overall, so from 562 to 572. So nice little upgrade there. Next vault we'll take a look at is my Demon Hunter. This character has the same vault slots as my Death Knight. I just did just went ahead and did 4 bountiful delves this week on the Demon Hunter. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Demon Hunter is a little bit better geared than the Death Knight. I think he has over 590 item level before I grab the upgrade out of this chest. So, but pretty much anything that's heroic level should be an upgrade, so I'll be pretty happy kind of with that anything. I was checking the vault there, but it wasn't showing up. But we'll go ahead and take a look at this. And we actually got tier gloves. And these are actually super nice because they don't have mastery on them. Demon hunters want to avoid mastery as much as they can, so this is definitely a nice big upgrade. That trinket is not good, especially for tanks, I don't think. The active, I think it roots you for a couple seconds. Plus, I don't think it does very much damage. It's not like Manic Grief Torch, where you can just blow things up with the trinket. It's just not a super great active for something that immobilizes you. But yeah, nice little upgrade on the Demon Hunter. Puts me up, I think to 593 item level. Next character we're going to check is the Paladin. I've actually been kind of eyeing playing Paladin in the patch that's coming out next week. The buffs that they made to Lightsmith and the damage buff has already made it feel like a much tankier spec. And granted, I'm only doing delves. I haven't done any high-level mythic keys. But even in delves prior to the buffs, the spec did not feel super tanky. So I've been liking it so far. So maybe the changes will make it even more appealing as a character to play. Here, basically, have 2 options. It's this high haste mastery ring, and haste is really important for Paladin. It's definitely the most important stat. A shield is decent, especially because at the moment I only have a 606 shield, but the shield doesn't have haste on it, and I probably, if I do plan on playing the Paladin, will probably end up crafting a shield as an early item anyways. So kind of taking that shield, I think, would be probably a little bit of waste in the long term. Whereas this ring will probably actually last me a really long time, just because it has such a nice spread of stats for the spec. So we're just going to go ahead and grab the ring. And we'll go ahead and equip that. I kind of had to decide which ring to replace. I have 2 okay rings right now. I think they're both 606. One's like a crit haste ring. The other one is like a haste high verse ring. And while verse isn't as good a stat for paladins as other tanks, it's still a solid defensive stat. It still gives you that, a little bit of damage reduction for however much verse you have. So we'll go ahead and just replace the crit haste ring. Just to add a little bit more defensiveness. Especially early on in the season gearing up, I always try to aim for defensive stats on my tanks over offensive stats. But later, as the season progresses, we can kind of eye for trying to do a little bit more damage if I'm feeling more comfortable with my survivability. All right, next tank we'll be looking at here is my Guardian Druid. My Guardian Druid is, I want to say he's like 612 or 613 eye level, so doing pretty well. Both the Paladin and the Druid I've actually been kind of doing delves on, I think every week, basically, since they were available. So I've been managing to at least get 2 to 3 slots every week and getting some nice upgrades. Both my Paladin and my Druid, I forgot to mention about my Paladin, but both of them have 3-piece tier, so they're 1 piece away from getting tier. This delve or this vault was probably actually my most interesting choice here. I'm kind of eyeing this trinket. I was actually playing this trinket for a while on my warrior, the champion version. So the cap, item level cap is 619. It can't go any higher. The other option, obviously, is just taking a chest. I currently don't have a tier chest piece. I think it's just a 606 chest. So I could definitely take that 613 chest, go ahead and catalyze it and turn it into a tier chest. There was also a two-handed staff that had like a proc on it that I think does good damage, but in the long run, I don't think it will be good because I can just replace the staff. I currently have a crafted staff, a 619 I can replace that with like a 636 staff. So ultimately, I decided to go with the trinket. I actually think this is a really good opportunity to take this trinket early on in the season. Realistically, you can't ever get a higher item level of that specific trinket because it is a delve only trinket. So if it ends up being a trinket with good defensive value, it'll just be really nice to have the hero version. It's not hard to get another tier piece either from future vaults or I don't have Keystone Master done yet on any of my other tanks, so I could get Keystone Master and then just get a free tier piece there. So I think long term, I think just taking the trinket makes the most sense for the druid. So we go ahead and grab the trinket. Even if I don't end up using it long term, I still think it's fine to keep that. All right, and now finally on to the main, the Protection Warrior. So last week I actually did 8 plus 10 Mythic Keys. So that way I managed to fill out my entire vault with Myth Track gear. Plus obviously I did delves, so I've got like the delve slots, but hopefully we are taking a Myth Track item and not a Heroic Track item from the delve slots. Last week I think I only had one Myth Track item. I think I only did 1 or 2 10s. No, I actually had 4. I actually had 2 Myth Track slot items, and unfortunately did not get a single upgrade from them. I ended up taking the currency to buy a socket, put sockets in my 636 crafted bracers. So pretty depressing. This week, however, we did pretty good. Nothing crazy. I definitely would have loved to get an Arakara Sack Brood. Instead, I got the Grimbatal tanking trinket, the Throngus's Finger. There's also a weapon. Unfortunately, the weapon doesn't have super great stats. It does have high verse, but it has mastery on it, and we don't want mastery. And currently, I do have like a 636 haste verse weapon. So I kind of disregard the weapon pretty quickly. And I do take a look at this trinket. It does have Leech as well, which Leech is actually a very good tertiary stat for Protection Warriors. You already have a decent amount of Leech, so more of it kind of, it will build on itself essentially. The problem is that the trinket is just not very good. Versatility is obviously a good stat, but the proc is just not very strong. You're already good against defensive things, so you don't need a trinket that makes you better against physical attacks. Sorry. Ultimately, I go with the legs. Catalyze these into Myth Track tier legs. So overall, pretty decent week for vaults. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And as always, you can check me out over at twitch.tv/freshtanking for all of my World of Warcraft content, mostly focusing on Mythic Plus. Thanks again, and have a good one.